gorgeous plant is called a Philodendron Subhastatum with its gorgeous dark green leaves and red underside. Today we're going to propagate from the mother plant and create a new plant out of it. First of all, need to locate nodes. Nodes are areas where new roots will grow out of and also areas where new leaves will grow out of. You can locate a node on the stem. They have like a ridge on the stem which goes all around the stem, and also you can see sometimes they have these little red lumps and bumps in the areas where the nodes are, and this is actually area roots of the plant. And I always recommend when getting a cutting, try and get a cutting that has at least 2 nodes, just in case one node dies, there is a backup. Also, minimize the number of leaves. I say the maximum number of leaves is 2, because if there is only 1 leaf, then just in case that leaf dies, there's not a backup. And you don't want more than 2 leaves, because you want the new cutting to prioritize its energy into growing new leaves rather than trying to maintain those leaves. And getting clean clippers, don't do what I did, my clip's a bit dirty. Get some clean clippers, cut between 1 and 2 inches below the node, which is approximately about 1.5 centimeters to 3 centimeters below the node. Definitely don't want to go too close to the node, because this can actually damage the node and prevent roots from growing. And also don't want to cut too far away from the node, because the excess stem at the bottom of the cutting can either rot or it actually reduces the ability of the cutting to draw water into the stem. Once that's done, pop the cutting into water. I'm just using plain tap water. There's no need to use any fancy water, just plain tap water, making sure that the node is underneath the water. Also making sure that the leaves are not sitting in the water, because if the leaves are sitting in the water, there is a chance that the leaves can rot and also end up rotting the cutting. Also, I want to make sure that it's not too high above the node as well. So this one here, I have example. One is enough water level, and the other one there's actually too much water, and it's actually the leaves are sitting too much into the water. Once that's done, I just pop it in the area where this cutting will receive a lot of bright indirect sunlight. I want to avoid direct sunlight, even morning direct sunlight, because the new cutting is very sensitive. The direct sunlight can actually burn the actual leaves and reduce the chances of rooting to occur. Once the actual cutting has about 2 inches of new roots, it can be transferred into soil. Now, how long it takes for a cutting to grow those 2 to 3 inches of roots depends on your household conditions, and also depends on the season. I mean, the cutting will actually grow roots faster if it's like in spring or summer when it's more warmer, or in an area where it receives lots of bright indirect sunlight rather than just very little indirect sunlight. And the main part is once the roots are about 2 to 3 inches long, it's time to transfer it into soil. The reason for that, don't want to leave the cutting into the water for too long, because the cutting will end up being like a water plant, and it'll be harder for it to be successful when transferring it into soil. Now this one here, I have this cutting here. I actually rooted this cutting about 2 months ago, and it's grown enough roots to transfer it into soil. And the soil mixture I'm using today consists of 20% potting mix, 20% orchid mix, 20% perlite, 20% horticultural charcoal, and 20% orchid bark. Now I just want a soil mixture that is very well draining, holds a little bit of moisture, but also the soil to be chunky. Philodendrons like their soil to be chunky. And if you don't happen to have all those ingredients there and products, don't worry, I can make it more, you can use a more simple soil mixture. Sometimes I will use 50% potting mix and 50% orchid bark. If I don't have orchid bark, I will substitute it for 50% perlite, or I'll substitute it for vermiculite, or substitute it for horticultural charcoal. I found that mixture works well also. And once that's done, I'm using a pot, a plastic pot today. It has drainage holes because it's important to have drainage holes. Otherwise, if there's no drainage holes, there's a high chance of overwatering the transferred cutting, and this can actually rot. And once I do that, I dig a hole in the pot, pop the cutting into the actual hole. Now I do make sure that the node is underneath the soil and the roots are all in the soil. I don't want any of the roots to be floating on top, because the reason for that, those roots that are too high on top, it can dry out and the transfer of this cutting to soil may not be as successful. Once that's done, I just use plain water, normal tap water, just water the plant thoroughly. And I usually water it thoroughly at the start because this cutting has been transferred from water, so it has full access to water all the time. So I want to make sure that the soil is thoroughly watered. And then I'll pop it in an area where, once again, it receives a lot of bright indirect sunlight. Now I want to also make sure that the soil stays moist for a couple of weeks. Then I go back to the normal care of philodendrons by making sure the soil is completely dry before I re-water it again. Also, I forgot to mention that when I actually put the cutting into water, I do replace that water each week just to make sure that there is no fungus growing into the water. So that's how easy it is to propagate a Philodendron Subhastatum. Now, if you want to know how to propagate a Philodendron Hastatum, which is also known as the silver sword, watch this video next. I'll see you there.